Right, welcome back, and now let's take a look at a completely different kind of topic. With only 5 days to go to the polls, we have got a lot happening across the country, with the stakes, so high for the politicians running across the country, different regions, just solidifying their, their voting blocks and calling out their supporters to come out in large numbers and support them. The background of this discussion is, as human beings, we are always ready for a win. But the question is, are we ready to lose? Okay, well, let me ask you. We are always ready to win, but are we ready to lose? So what happens if one loses in an election? Because it's an emotional kind of an event, and many people get into different situations in life thereafter. 5 days to go. The honest truth is, one person will be declared a winner and others will lose. That's why it's called a contest. So we have to prepare ourselves for such situations. That is why in studio I have got Dr. Caroline Vundi, who is a psychiatrist with the Chiromo Hospitals Group, ready to give us everything that we need to know before we head to the polls. Karibu Daktari.
Thank you so much for having me.
Are you a registered voter to start with?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes.
I believe that I need to exercise my right to vote, and I don't believe in being a passive citizen when it comes to the election.
Yes.
But in the same way, I do respect people who don't want to vote. I just have chosen that I need to exercise this right. Yeah.
Please don't tell me who you'll vote for. That is a secret, and all I will have to get to know is that ink that you have voted. Have you ever lost in any battle in your life?
Absolutely. Let me give you a bit of a background.
Right.
So before becoming a psychiatrist, I went to medical school, right? Now, before going to medical school, you are the top of the class, creme de la creme. Then you go to medical school and you've met everybody else who is top of the class. So what happens? You're not number one anymore. So for me, I do know that experience of not being number one. Then it teaches you, keep trying, do better, do better. So yes, I have experience with that.
How does it feel losing in a contest?
Challenging, heartbreaking, emotional. It's a very, very emotional time, but again, as I said, it eventually makes you better because you get back into the game, you try harder. So for me, what it did for me is I had to look around and say, okay, maybe I can't be the best, but I'll have to keep trying.
Right.
Maybe I'm not the best right now, but I can try again.
The reason why I'm asking that question is that election is just 5 days away, and many people have spent years, campaigning, so to speak, months of intense campaigns, resources deployed. Some of them have even lost their jobs, resigned from their previous jobs, 8 to 5. Some of them have spent, their savings into campaigns, and right now, others are even seeking for Harambes to run their campaigns.
Yes.
Come next week, we'll only have one winner, one woman rep, one governor, one president, one MCA. The rest of the guys will go back home. And that is where that point of stress will kick in. Give me a situation a day after an election and someone has lost.
All right, that's a very, very good question. I'll start first with the build-up. I love the way that you've painted the picture, because sometimes we don't see politicians as human beings. We look at them in the TV and we think they're this superstar or this person who has no emotions or, So I like the build-up that you've created. Somebody has spent time, money, energy, investing. It's actually an investment.
Yes.
Then the day after the election, they've not lost. Immediately, the first thing that comes to mind is anxiety. Okay? The person, even when they're declaring or counting the votes, you can imagine the anxiety level. It's as if, let me take you back to high school. When we were waiting for our exam results, the anxiety feeling.
Please don't remind me. Please don't remind me.
And the symptoms of anxiety are there. Chest tightness, your heart is beating, what we call palpitations, not sleeping. I'm not sure they can sleep the night before, the votes are declared. So anxiety is there. all right? Then obviously depression, because now they are thinking, I have to look for money. There's the shame. There's the shame you've lost. There is shame. So depression is a very, very, very common symptom of that failure. And one that comes immediately after is substance use, alcoholism.
Yeah.
Because now I've lost, I have no sense of purpose. People are probably following me for debts. You know, they're collecting their money. So what do? I run to the bar. So we see a lot of politicians who, you know, have gotten depressed and they just end up turning to the bottle, or, you know, God knows what else. So depression, anxiety, and substance use. And all this, by the way, imagine having all this. Of course, somebody is going to age more quickly.
Yes.
Somebody is going to be at risk of even physical illnesses, hypertension. Now your blood pressure starts to shoot. Okay? So these are just some of the few mental challenges that somebody who has just been told they've lost is at risk of.
You know, it's quite painful that we're talking we're talking about this particular subject before an election. Something that even me, if you ask me, Victor, are you ready to lose? You know, we are always optimistic. Ask a man, hapana, hiyo nitashinda bana. Saa moja asubuhi. By 7:30 he's lost or she's lost.
Yes.
We cover elections and we see how chaotic sometimes it gets.
Yes.
You know, the kicking of boxes, shots being fired, you know, there's a blackout in point A, polling station B, and what have you. A lot of things happen at polling station just because you want to get that particular seat. Are we ready as human beings, more so the politicians? Do you think they're ready to accept that loss?
I don't think human beings are ever ready to lose. Just on a human being level, I don't think anybody is ever ready to lose. So, especially more for a politician who has people around him or her, telling them, hii kitu utapata. You know, the people surrounding you can also build you up and make you feel like you're invincible. I feel like that's how a lot of the politicians, they have a lot of people in their ear telling them, there's no way you can lose this thing. So what happens is the head swells, so they're not even, losing is not even in their sphere of possibility, right? Interestingly, I don't know if I'm correct, but in the States, they're gearing up for primaries, right? And I was speaking to a friend of mine who lives there and was telling me that there are people in the streets still picketing, okay, and still protesting the Trump loss. That was a while back.
Yes.
There's people who are still with their placards in the street.
Yes.
Still complaining about that loss. So you can imagine, nobody is ever ready for loss. Not in Kenya, not in the States, not anywhere. And politics is a game that maybe I'm not a very good political analyst.
We will excuse you for that. We will excuse you for that.
But I feel like it's just this sense of extreme confidence and boldness. I can't lose. So I don't think they're usually ready for that loss. Even the people who we look at and we say this one has no chance, them in their head, they really think, I've got this thing.
So what really happens in a situation, because I am so sure you've met a couple of people who've gone through that process. How do you deal with them?
So for us, we are clinicians, so we are not there to make somebody feel less than. All we do is support. So when it comes to our practice, we usually do two things. So say, for example, a politician has stepped into my clinic a day after the election. They're depressed, they're anxious, maybe they are even now turning to alcohol. What do? I sit with them and I listen. By the way, our craft is all about listening. Then from listening, we make an evaluation, okay? We make an evaluation. Are you depressed? If you're depressed, what is the severity of your depression? Is it mild? Because if it's mild, maybe you just need some sessions of therapy, what we call counseling.
Yeah.
A bit of somebody just to listen to, cry, break down if you need to. Okay. If it's severe, do you need medication? And that one is usually a very challenging conversation.
Yeah.
Because not a lot of people are open to being told, you have depression, you need antidepressants. Okay. Sometimes if it's very, very severe depression, we might need to admit you. So in fact, a lot of times in Chiromo, we admit patients even for rest. You can imagine this politician has lost, right?
Yes.
There are people probably in their house, probably waiting to be paid back. Their opponents are out there taunting their victory, running around and, celebrating. Sometimes we just say, you know what, come in for admission just to get your mind out of this thing. So by the way, sometimes we admit people just what we call respite to get you out of that environment that is causing the stress. All right. And if it's a very, very, very severe case of perhaps addiction and alcoholism, we can even go to the rehab. Okay. So what we do, we take somebody in, we listen to them, assess, and then give the appropriate treatment. Sometimes the appropriate treatment could mean bringing in the whole family for family therapy, because politics destroys families.
It does.
Yes.
It does. And even as we speak, perhaps somebody is struggling with that. Yeah.
You find maybe this person has used all their money on the politics. They have not paid school fees. They have not, the house perhaps is a mess. Everybody is feeling the strain as the family. So sometimes we need to bring in the family and say, let's all sit at the table with a mediator, of course, being now the psychiatrist or the psychologist, to now allow the other family members to talk about how they feel. Children of politicians are suffering. Children of politicians are feeling like the politics is robbing them of fathers, of mothers. And sometimes they can't say, because this politician, remember I said this politician is almost like a godlike character.
Exactly.
How is a young child supposed to tell this godlike character, Daddy, we miss you, we don't see you? So when now we see that dynamic, we have family therapy, where now we can allow the family members to talk to this person and mediate. Right. So we actually have a very big assignment ahead of us.
You can imagine as a nation, everything is now charged. One hand is supporting candidate X, another one candidate Y, another one candidate, etc., etc. The whole nation is charged, including the international community. Some countries are supporting Kenya, another one does not support Kenya. But as a nation, are we ready to accept that kind of situation? Election has passed, we voted, and now counting is done, and winners declared. As a nation, do you think we are ready for that transition?
That's a very interesting question. I'd say it depends. There are always people who are very ready to accept, and then there are always those who are not. So there's a push and pull, okay? So there are people who, of course, whatever the outcome, them they just want to move on with life, go back to work, keep it moving. But there will be those, of course, who feel aggrieved. So what do we do about this situation? And I actually love that we are having this conversation, because I would really like to tell every single person, wherever you are, in your sphere of influence, try and become that kind of a calming force. Because, we can't always expect the politicians at the top to tell us, Tulia, let us accept. We also need to do it wherever we are. You at your house, at your estate, at your church, even at work. If you notice there's somebody who perhaps feels very tight about the outcome, you have a role to play as a citizen to kind of bring this person down. Let us not wait until things escalate, so that until now we are getting the advice from the top that, people, you need to accept, let's do what we can where we can. Yes.
Because, so how do you deal with that situation as a country? Because as we speak, everybody's mind is fixated on August 9th. That has been a song that has been sung for the last 5 years.
Yes.
And you ask even a kid, schools are closed as we speak, and they know we are going for an election. I believe kids have emotions as well, including animals. They have feelings, emotions, all that. But then, the moment an election is over, how do I, even me as a journalist, how do I need to pull up myself, forgetting about what happened 2-3 weeks ago? Election is over. Now I have now to transition from that normal lifestyle, quote unquote, back to normal lifestyle of life should continue.
There's something I usually tell my patients, and that is, feel what you need to feel. Don't ever deny your emotions. If you are happy about the outcome, be happy. If you're unhappy, be unhappy. But always regulate yourself. Okay, everything in moderation. So if you're happy, feel happy, but do not now be extremely happy you drink the whole week because so-and-so is now the new governor. Do you understand?
Right.
So on an individual level, be moderate in expressing yourself, okay? Human beings, you've said a very interesting point that even children have to feel what they feel. So I do believe that even with children, we've got to kind of communicate with them what's happening. Okay? And I've noticed even when it comes to issues such as tribalism, children pick up from parents what they hear.
Yes, the older generation.
The older generation. So if you're there as a parent and you're watching news and you're saying very bad things about another tribe, your child is listening. And guess what? He will say those things next week when he goes to school. So let us be very cautious about how we communicate with our children. In fact, sit them down and tell them, now we've had an election, so-and-so has won. It doesn't mean anything extreme. We just accept the outcome and move on. Just have a small family meeting in the home, because it starts from, that's how you ingrain it in children, such that even when they're adults, 5-10 years from now, you will have taught them that whatever the outcome, we accept, we move on. Yes.
I want to talk about the level of emotional damage that election will always come along with, and thereafter it's completely eroded and we need to bring it back to our normal selves.
Yes.
Take me through that.
So, of course, as a country, we have a lot of trauma. So the word is actually trauma. Trauma is an experience which elicits an emotional response. So elections have a very traumatic history in Kenya from time immemorial, right?
Yes.
We have experienced, you know, death. We have experienced tension. So whenever elections come, there's always something in the air. I don't know if you're feeling it. I mean, people are tense, kind of.
Exactly.
So it's because of the historical trauma, okay? So on an emotional level, I feel like some people are anxious. Remember the symptoms of anxiety I mentioned?
Yes.
By the way, there are people who are not sleeping, even not the politicians.
Exactly, because of the past experiences.
There are people who are triggered. So a trigger is something that reminds you of your trauma. Say, for example, you were hit by a car 5 years ago. And then now, cars that drive fast are a trigger. That's what I'm talking about. So right now, there are people who are triggered. Everything is a trigger. Even perhaps watching news is a trigger. Even the posters they are seeing, trigger. Okay? So we are all a bit anxious. So what do we do about it? I always say that, number one, you must fully confront your trigger. Using the same example of somebody who's been in an accident.
Yes.
We don't encourage you now never to enter a matatu or a vehicle because you had an accident. We usually encourage, when you have a trigger, confront it. You enter that vehicle, you enter that matatu, but apply safety measures. Put your safety belt, okay? If somebody's speeding, tell them to slow down. So be in control of the trigger.
You manage. You
manage it. So what I'm saying is that I don't encourage people, even if they feel emotional right now, I don't encourage people to hide under the to bury their head under the sand. I would say still be involved in the political process, exercise your rights, okay, but manage, okay? Don't now be excessively obsessed. There are people who are constantly now watching every single news about politics, everything. You know, that kind of narrative can make you extremely anxious. So be involved, but manage. Don't jump into every conversation about politics. Everywhere you go, you are just asking people, who are you voting for? Kwenu kunaenda aje, you know? Manage. Let us move on with life, but manage your emotions.
Yes.
Yes.
You know, it's quite interesting because anytime we have a discussion with these politicians, I meet them a lot, and you'll talk to someone and you'll think that he's there with you. Kumbe ayuko. His mind is completely somewhere else until you. Yes, what are you saying?
Triggers.
They kind of, they are not present. They are there, but their minds are far away from you. What happens in such a situation? Because you'd really want to help such a person to develop him or herself, to go to an election, win, but that person has perhaps some kind of a feeling that things are not working out well as it's supposed to be. How do we help such a person? Because we are talking specifically to the contestants and the aspirants. How do we help them?
Actually, that experience you've described is actually a medical psychiatric condition.
Really? So I passed to be a psychiatrist at this particular point.
It is called dissociation.
Right.
Dissociation. Dissociation is where somebody is there, but they are not there. You're talking to them, but they are not present.
Absent-minded.
Completely not there. In fact, I feel like a lot of these politicians are dissociated when they go home. Remember the situation I was telling you about? The politician is home, but they are not home. Their mind is at the ballot.
Yes.
At the, you know, but their family is there. They need them. So they have dissociated. Their mind is not there.
Yeah.
So what, in fact, I would like to say that all politicians need a psychiatrist or a psychologist, or at least a wellness coach, somebody to walk with them this journey. In fact, at least, you know, once a month, once a week, they need to have a session, because dissociation happens when you have so many things.
Yes.
You're carrying so many things. Your mind actually decides it cannot do everything. So let home take a break.
Yeah. Currently they say mambo ni mengi lakini time ndio hakuna.
Ndio hakuna. Sasa the brain has no capacity to deal with all that, so they depersonalize completely. They dissociate. So what they need perhaps is just a weekly or a monthly session with the psychiatrist, a psychologist, or just a coach. I'm sure you've heard about life coaches.
Exactly.
Just somebody you can talk to at the end of the day and tell them, I'm actually so stressed. I'm not sleeping. My wife is not talking to me. Because these politicians don't have somebody to open up to. Their trust issues.
Yeah.
Because the politician is wondering, you know, I cannot tell the people, you know, my people in my team, my issues, because what if they go and tell my opponent? You know, I can't tell you I'm not talking to my wife, because what if that ends up in the tabloid tomorrow? So they need a professional relationship, because for us, whatever a patient tells me is in complete confidentiality.
Right.
So I cannot tell.
It's called oath of secrecy.
Completely. In fact, the only time I can break that oath is if I feel that, you know, perhaps you're going to harm somebody. Like if a patient tells me, I'm going to kill so-and-so tomorrow, that one, of course, I can't keep. I'm obliged to. But anything else is in complete confidentiality. So I do believe that all these politicians need a safe space, even to cry. You know, it's okay to cry.
Yes.
Even just to...
How heavy can it get?
Oh, it can get very heavy, to the point of people feeling suicidal. People feeling that this is too much, I can't handle it, I need to go. And actually yesterday we launched the National Suicide Prevention Strategy.
Good.
And some of the facts that came up were completely alarming. First of all, suicide is completely taking over the young generation from 15 to 29. It's the fourth leading cause of death. Fourth. Number two, it's higher. The rates are higher in men. And we know a lot of our politicians are men.
Yeah.
So the rate of suicide is almost 2 times higher in men. This is because men don't talk. They just keep.
Kangumu kama wanaume.
Kangumu. Wanaume hawali.
That's how society has completely conditioned us to be.
Men don't cry.
Mwanaume unalia nini?
Exactly. Now imagine politician. Politician, mwanaume, can't cry, cannot talk to anybody. So you can imagine just the level of stress, and God knows how many of them are suicidal or are thinking of just harming themselves.
Yeah.
So it can get that serious. It can get that serious.
What is the head of a politician? I'm so sure you've met a couple of them coming for sessions, counseling, and just a word. What is usually in the head of a politician? Because as we speak, I can call any of them, they'll not pick. They will not pick. They'll only pick next week, but one after everything is settled. But right now, they will never pick.
Yeah.
What is the head of a politician?
Of course, without revealing too much because of the confidentiality we mentioned.
Sure.
But I'll give you a very good analogy. You know how you can be on the internet in your laptop and you can have many tabs open. There's this tab, there's this one, there's this. That's the mind of a politician. It's like there are about 50 compartments, all of them running at the same time.
I need to pay the PA.
Yes.
My posters are not done.
Yes.
A rally there, women
Yes.
group waiting for me here.
Yes.
Youth group this.
Yeah. So in fact, I feel like, you remember earlier I had said that we've been looking at politicians like they are demigods.
Yes.
We've villainized them so much. There's a lot of anger towards them. I mean, it might be justified, but you know, this is a human being at the end of the day. It's not humanly possible to deal with all this. So I would just say that it's a lot of stress. It's a very high stress, high pressure position. High stress, high pressure position.
And here you're looking at a situation where you have to wake up in the morning on 9th of August and stay there until votes are counted. But then, the supporters also play a key role, the mwananchi.
Yes.
Mheshimiwa ni wewe. Mheshimiwa hii ni yako.
Yes.
Do you blame the mwananchi for pushing the mheshimiwa to the edge? Before I come on the side effects of losing an election on the side of mwananchi. Yes.
I would say that I blame both. So that relationship, the politician and mwananchi, it's not one person at fault. It's not the politician, it's not the mwananchi. It's just a dynamic that is toxic. And mwananchi is to blame because of that codependency they've created.
Yes.
It's actually a codependency. I'll give an example of if you have a family member who is an alcoholic, okay? There's usually a very toxic codependency dynamic sometimes that happens with the parent. So you find this child is an alcoholic, but the parent keeps giving them money. Or the parent keeps allowing them, you know, they have an accident today, they go and bail them out and they hunger the policeman, you know, and the accident was hard when the person was drunk. So you see there's that weird toxic dynamic, but you cannot blame the addict and you cannot blame the parent. This is the same thing that's happening with the mwananchi and the politicians.
Yes.
So I would definitely say that for the mwananchi, we need to also elevate the way that we interact with our politicians, because right now what's happening, I was in the village last week. Even the vehicle of the politician cannot pass in peace. People will stop him.
Yeah.
You have to do something for us. You know, is that really how we need to be holding them accountable, as opposed to when they are actually in office, we need to be telling them, you need to do this for us, this dam needs to be fixed. You've been seeing the bus that had an accident and so many people died.
Yes.
But how many wananchis will hold their politician accountable to something like that? Very few, right? But wakati ya siasa, that's when we are following them around the most. I think we need to adjust the way we look at politics and politicians. It's not about that 100 bob, you know. It's not about buy for me unga because next week is election.
Yes.
Let's hold them accountable to a higher standard.
To what they can deliver to us.
What can you deliver? What people don't know what is in the manifesto.
Don't even start.
They don't. They just will wait for them at the village, at the town. Akipita, we need unga, we need this, we need, you know. And then after the election, silence, and we move on. So mwananchi, we need to elevate how we hold our politicians accountable. Their politicians are not there to pay our bills. They are there to make policies, fix what is wrong in the society, implement laws that actually will help us. You understand? They're not there to give you unga before elections. So this dynamic completely has to change.
Right.
Yeah.
Doctor, our minds as human beings conditioned and wired to see the positive side of life, completely negating the negative bit of it.
Yeah.
Is that how we are as human beings? We are optimistic that anything that brings a failure in us crushes our ego and our emotions, and we just disappear in some dark corner and cry and just vanish like that.
Yeah, human beings sometimes can be very pessimistic. And but you'll find a few who are actually optimistic. The determining factor is the social support. That's the only thing that determines who will crumble after a loss and who will pick themselves up, dust themselves, and keep running. It's the social support. It's the people around you. Because what happens with some politicians is when they lose, everybody goes away.
I think I have a friend of mine who told me that. Let's just take a break, and we come back. I'd want to talk about that one in specific, because you realize that the people who are around you, Mheshimiwa, all of a sudden your phone goes silent and everything else. So let me take a break, and when we come back, we are going to continue that discussion. Election just next week, but are we ready to lose? Let's take a break. We'll be right back. And welcome back. We still have Dr. Caroline Vundi. You know what? One thing which is quite interesting is that nimemuuliza if I'm depressed, and she laughed. So I don't know whether I'm depressed or not. She'll tell me after the show. Welcome back. Now we're talking about the issue of post-election stress management, more specifically to you as a politician, you as a candidate, and to the Mwananchi at large. Dr. Let's talk about the other side of Mwananchi. We've done our bit. We've supported the politicians. Even as media, we have done our part. And the common Mwananchi out there spend sleepless nights with the t-shirts, with the caps, with leaflets, flyers, and what have you, supporting their candidates of choice. And someone will lose next week, sadly, but that is the reality. How does a Mwananchi move past that?
It's obviously tough because Mwananchi, we all invest. Even if you think I won't vote or whatever, you still have an inkling as to who you would like to see in office, right?
Yes.
So what I would say is that remember that every single person is living their own individual lives. And what do I mean by this? Sometimes when during the election time, we start to imagine ourselves, it's like we are at the same level as the politicians. All right? But remember that you have your own job, you have your own family, you have your own physical and mental and emotional health
To take care of.
to take care of yourself.
Yes.
And you know, you might get so invested in this election, and if things don't go your way, you decide to take matters into your own hands, and guess what? You're the one who will lose. I mean, I don't like to bring this up, but you remember what happened the other time. You know, when things went really bad and, you know, Kenyans took matters into their own hands, but who lost? Whose houses were being burnt? You know, we were all kind of grounded, you know, we couldn't leave our house. And it was a wake-up call that in as much as we want to think I'm team so-and-so, actually you're not. You are Victor, I'm Caroline. At the end of the day, it boils down to that. Even if you think I'm team such and such, you're really not so much on the team, all right? You're an individual, you're a human being. And that's how you need to look at other people, that this is a human being.
Yes.
This is not a political party. When I look at you, you're not blue or yellow or green, you're a person. So my message would be, let us just look at people as human beings, as individuals. Even beyond 9th, whatever the outcome, remember that this is a human being, a father, a brother, a sister, a mother. So don't be shielded by whatever color or whatever party, or behind that is a person.
Let's talk about people who will win, because excitement is also it's also, we have to moderate the excitement.
Yes, true.
So Victor has won, Caroline has won, she's the woman rep, and yes. So how do we moderate that kind of excitement that, to an extent that it doesn't cross over to the other party that is hurting?
I would like to say that for those who win, excitement is good, but remember, you have to hold these people accountable. So don't just get content that tumeshinda.
Yes.
That same excitement, follow up this person that you elected. Follow up and make sure that they're actually delivering. Because winning, fine, great, they've won. But this person said they will do A, B, C, D. Hold them accountable. That same energy you used during the campaign to run around and campaign for your person, that same energy, use it to hold this person accountable.
What are some of the steps of acceptance? Someone has completely has won, for example, for the first time. Oh my God, I didn't believe it. I've beaten Victor. He had the resources and what have you. What are some of the stages of acceptance so that I come to terms with that? Okay, I have won. I'm the legitimate winner. I have the certificate. For the next 5 years, I'm the boss of this particular region. So what are the steps? What are the stages of acceptance, either for a loss or for a win?
Of course, there's the initial shock and surprise of whatever the outcome, loss or winning. And for those people who win, they also get stressed. Let me shock you. For people,
really?
Yes, they do. Because remember, this person has won. What will happen? People will flock to their house. So the pressure now builds. The person who's won, you never know. Somebody might start challenging their win. So stress can come from there. Somebody can say, no, I want a recount. All right, so there's that particular stress. Remember, the person who's won now starts to feel that pressure of performing. So now, do they have enough time for their family? Do they have enough time for their physical health? There are more demands on the winner still, right? So it's not that after winning, now we relax, we sleep. So after winning, there's also now resetting your mindset to, okay, what needs to be done? So you reset what needs to be done. Do I need to? Is there a recount happening? Are we okay? Are we ready to go? Then there's a pressure of who do I elect where? Who do I put in which office? There are people who perhaps you had promised. I'll put you in this office, I'll put you. Now they come asking for their promises. Then there's the temptation of people coming and telling you, to get into shoddy deals, corruption. Give me this tender, I'll do this and that. There are all these pressures that come in. So I would say for acceptance, I actually don't know if people ever reach a total acceptance. I feel like acceptance is challenged at every single step, at every single encounter, with every single job they need to do. There's that kind of constant having to prove yourself.
Because the reason why I'm asking this one is because the common mwananchi, they have voted, they have spent their time, run around in the cold, and some of them even die because of supporting candidate A or B. So there is that aspect of family that is completely now broken. Some people lost their jobs, some people lost their livelihoods, and even as we speak, others, getting displaced because of a reason or two, which should not be the case. The government says, be where you are. So as a nation, are we ready to move past 9th of August, generally?
I think we'll never really be fully ready. But what I would just like to advise everybody, be it the politician or the mwananchi, the voters, is have a life outside of politics. Even as a politician, you cannot eat, live, breathe everything politics. Even if it's have a farm, have something else that, not even really a backup plan, but something that also is an escape from just politics all through. Because it can be very consuming. Yes.
Perhaps, let me just give an example. I've had people who tell me, hey, bana, imekuwa ngumu, my phone even stopped ringing. How deep can that get into someone's head?
It's very depressing and isolating, especially for those who lose, and everybody kind of runs away and you're left alone. And then perhaps you already broke the family perhaps, then now you're truly alone. And that's why I was saying, have other things going for you. Even if it is golf, even if it's a farm, whatever, have a business, have something else outside of politics, because guess what? If it goes wrong, you might find yourself standing alone with nobody there to call you to. It can be very isolating.
Yeah, and that's where someone gets into depression.
Completely, yes.
Your final word, because I'm tempted to ask you this. A politician coming to you and tells you, Daktari, I'm depressed. How do you help him or her?
The first thing I would say is I'm not surprised that you're depressed. So I understand why you would be depressed. It's always just good to listen to somebody and affirm them that I actually understand why you're in this position, and to just avail myself to walk with them the journey, to look at their social support, to bring in their family. I think I would say that for all politicians out there, get somebody, maybe even not me, maybe, maybe we are a big team at Chiromo, but come and get somebody to walk this journey with you. Don't wait until now you are suicidal, you are depressed, you are anxious, you are addicted to alcohol now to come. Find somebody to walk the journey with.
This is a brutal truth, because next week at such a time, somebody will be a winner and somebody will be a loser. Please just talk to them in that camera, because we just have to face it as it is. 9th of August, 10th, 11th, we have got celebrations and tears across the country, depending on how it will go. How do you help such a person from Chiromo Hospitals Group?
From Chiromo, what I would say is that it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to feel stressed. Just don't go at it alone. Come and get help. Come and reach out to us. It's not a kind of weakness to get mental help. It's not weakness. It doesn't mean you're weak. There is no shame. Let us end that stigma and just come and get the help that you need, because you're a human being.
Mental health is real.
It is real. It is.
I ask a question. Am I okay? Do I look fine? Or do I look depressed?
We can't know. When I was growing up, we used to say, mwenda wazimu, it's somebody who's stripping naked and running around and all of that.
Yes.
The face of depression is like me and you.
No.
In a good suit, smiling at everybody. People can be depressed looking very, very normal. People can be anxious. Even right now, you could be anxious and I don't know. The only way to know is to get an evaluation. When you feel you're not okay, don't just sit with that feeling. Come and tell us, I don't think I'm okay. You might not know it's depression, but you always know when there's something not okay. Just come and tell us that statement. I don't think I'm okay.
Do you get depressed?
Of course.
And you seek help?
Of course.
So
I'm not immune. Nobody's immune.
Why not me? Why not that politician?
Exactly.
I mean, we also have, we just need to get help from whichever source at the end of the day, because we just had to have this discussion. Everything has been flying around. Mtu wengi anashinda, tunachukua kitu asubuhi, nini, and what are that. But what about if you lose? What next after that? We've had situations where people, quit their jobs to get into politics. We've had situations where people, sell their property just to get into politics. It's a gamble. But at the end of the day, we only have one winner. That is where we wrap up this conversation. It's better we do it right now rather than later after the damage is done. My name is Victor Oloo. We had Dr. Caroline Vundi from the Chiromo Hospitals Group, a psychiatrist there. If you need any help, please go there and talk to them. They will help you. All right? Thank you so much for watching. My name is Victor Oloo. Have a good morning.